Hello everyone, and welcome to this lecture on Plan Risk Management for Construction Projects, brought to you by Roa Handisia. Today we'll explore one of the most critical processes in project management. Risk is an inseparable part of construction projects. Whether it's cost overruns, delays, safety issues, or regulatory changes, risks can derail even the best planned project. The Plan Risk Management process is our foundation. It tells us how risks will be identified, analyzed, and controlled before they even occur. Before we dive in, let's quickly review what we aim to accomplish today. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to define plan risk management and its importance, identify key inputs, tools, and outputs, explain the PMBOK risk management process, and finally, connect this theory to real-world construction challenges. Let's start with the basics. According to the PMBOK guide, plan risk management is defined as the process of defining how to conduct risk management activities for a project. Now, notice something very important here. This process does not identify individual risks yet. That comes in the next stage, the identify risks process. Instead, this stage is about creating the framework, the blueprint for risk management. Think of it this way. Before you start identifying risks, you need to agree on the rules of the game. You need to decide how risks will be handled, who will be responsible, what tools will be used, and how results will be communicated. This process answers questions such as, will we use qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, or both? How detailed should our risk register be, considering the project size? Do we have a dedicated risk manager, or will the project manager carry that role? What level of risk is acceptable to the client or stakeholders? By setting this foundation, the team ensures that risk management activities are proportional to the project's complexity and importance. For example, in a small residential building project, risk planning might be as simple as a checklist of safety hazards and a plan for weather delays. In a large infrastructure project like a highway or a bridge, risk planning is far more complex. Here, we might need detailed simulations, scenario planning, dedicated risk workshops, and advanced tools like Monte Carlo analysis. So, in summary, plan risk management is about making sure that when risks are later identified, analyzed, and responded to, everyone already knows how the process will be run and what standards will be followed. Without this step, risk management efforts can become inconsistent, reactive, and fragmented. The entire risk management process hinges on this first step. Let's examine where plan risk management fits in the overall framework. As the slide shows, this is the launch pad. It's the very first step. Why does that matter? Because everything that follows, identifying risks, analyzing them, planning responses, all runs on the rules we define right here. Think of it like this: you wouldn't start building a house without a blueprint and a set of rules for the crew, right? This process is how we draw that blueprint for handling risk. The slide breaks down how we build that blueprint. We start with our inputs, key documents like the project charter and our company's past experiences. This is our raw material. We then use tools and techniques like expert judgment and team meetings to workshop and design our plan. The final output is the risk management plan itself. This is our finished blueprint, our master playbook for the entire project. Doing this first is what separates a proactive, controlled project from a reactive, chaotic one. It ensures that when a risk pops up, we don't panic, we just open the playbook and execute. So, why is this proactive planning so non-negotiable in construction? Our industry runs on uncertainty. Unforeseen site conditions, material delays, brutal weather. Any one of these can blow a project off course, sending costs soaring, timelines crumbling, and compromising quality. But what's the alternative? Without a plan, you're just reacting. That's when surprises become crises. That's when teams point fingers, budgets evaporate, and schedules become fiction. A proactive risk management plan is your antidote to that chaos. It's how you transform uncertainty from a threat into a managed variable. It builds a culture of accountability, not blame. It ensures that when, not if, a risk materializes, your team already knows who does what and how to respond, keeping your project on track, on budget, and under control. Before building a risk management plan, we need the right ingredients. Let's look at the key inputs for this process. First, the project charter, our project's constitution. It authorizes the project, gives the manager authority, and outlines high-level objectives and key stakeholders, whose risk tolerance we must understand. Next is the project management plan, especially the scope, schedule, and cost baselines. These define constraints we must protect. Any risk threatening the critical path or budget needs immediate attention. We also rely on project documents, such as the stakeholder register and requirements documentation. These help us understand human and technical complexity, showing who needs risk communication and what deliverables to safeguard. Then, enterprise environmental factors, external rules like government regulations, market conditions, and supply chain issues. These are outside our control but must be planned for. Finally, organizational process assets, our organizational memory, including lessons learned and past risk registers. These prevent repeating mistakes and help us identify risks proactively. Without these inputs, our plan would be guesswork. With them, we build on facts and experience. All right, we've gathered our ingredients, the charter, plans, and historical data. So now what? How do we turn all that information into an actionable plan? This is where the magic happens, our tools and techniques. These methods help us synthesize everything and build the risk management framework. First, expert judgment, our most valuable asset. We tap into the wisdom of engineers, architects, project managers, and external specialists. Their experience helps foresee challenges textbooks can't cover. Next, data analysis. This makes our approach objective, beyond pure opinion. A key technique is stakeholder analysis, mapping power, interest, and risk tolerance. It tells us who to keep informed and how much risk the project can take. We also use historical trends to predict future issues. Finally, structured meetings, focused risk planning workshops. The entire team participates, from client to foreman, building the plan collaboratively. This isn't about one person dictating terms. It's about collective knowledge and team buy-in, which makes the plan workable. Individually, these techniques are helpful. Together, they form a powerful system. Data grounds our discussions, and expert judgment interprets it, ensuring our plan is robust, realistic, and ready for the real world. With our inputs gathered and our tools applied, we now create the most critical deliverable, the outputs. And this is where everything comes together. The primary output, the entire purpose of this process, is the risk management plan. Think of this document not as a formality, but as your project's insurance policy and strategic playbook combined. As the slide shows, this plan is a comprehensive framework built on several key pillars. First, it defines our overall strategy and methodology. This is the how. It answers the question, what are the specific rules of the game for managing risk on this project? It ensures everyone is playing by the same rules. It then establishes our risk categories and a risk breakdown structure, RBS. This is our filing system for uncertainty. By organizing potential risks into logical groups like technical, external, or logistical, we stop risks from falling through the cracks. We make the unknown manageable. Critically, the plan clarifies all roles and responsibilities. This is the who. It moves risk management from a vague team effort to clear accountability. It explicitly states who is the owner of each risk category, who is responsible for executing responses, and who needs to be in the communication loop. This eliminates confusion and finger-pointing later. And finally, it secures our funding and allocates time. This is the what it takes. It assigns a budget for contingency plans and schedules time for risk reviews. This formalizes risk management as a real, funded activity, not just a theoretical exercise. It gives us the resources to actually execute the plan. In short, this document transforms risk management from a reactive scramble into a proactive, disciplined process. It's the blueprint that ensures we are prepared, not just surprised. This slide captures the core, powerful principle of effective risk management. Proactive effort drives down risk. It's a simple but powerful cause and effect equation. The two most critical proactive efforts are 1. Early planning, starting the risk process as soon as possible. 2. Basing that plan on accurate data, using the most current scope, schedule, and cost information. When you combine these two efforts, you generate high-quality inputs like a well-defined project summary, a clear scope of work, and reliable cost estimates. These robust inputs are the foundation for creating a strong risk management plan. And a strong plan leads directly to the ultimate outcome: fewer project risks. You identify and neutralize threats before they can impact your budget, your schedule, or your team's safety. But the process doesn't end there. This entire cycle creates a continuous feedback loop. The results of your risk management efforts produce new, updated data, making your future planning even more precise. This transforms project management from a reactive job into a controlled, predictable process. In essence, a small investment in disciplined planning upfront yields massive returns in reduced uncertainty and greater control throughout the project's life. So, let's translate this theory into action. What are the practical, must-do steps you can implement on your very next project? First, start early. Don't wait for the first problem to hit. Integrate risk planning during the initial scope definition. This upfront investment is your single best tool to prevent surprises, control costs, and get the entire team on the same page from day one. Next, allocate time and budget. This is how you move from talk to action. Formally schedule risk workshops and contingency funds in your project plan. This proves your commitment, transforms risk management from a theoretical concept into a funded activity, and gives your team the resources they need to succeed. Third, engage stakeholders relentlessly. Risk isn't managed in a silo. Hold collaborative workshops with your entire team, from clients to contractors. This isn't just a meeting. It's how you build trust, create shared ownership of challenges, and tap into the collective intelligence of everyone involved. And finally, the strategic key: clarify organizational risk tolerance. Is your company a risk taker or risk averse? You must understand this. Sit down with leadership to understand their appetite for risk. This ensures your risk strategy directly supports the company's vision for growth and competition, and stops you from presenting overly conservative or dangerously aggressive plans. These 4 actions are the cornerstone of transforming uncertainty from a threat into a managed advantage. We've built the framework and understood the principles. But now, let's see what proactive risk management looks like in the real world. Theory is important, but results are what truly matter. So, we're going to put this plan into action by analyzing 2 brilliant real-world examples. First, we'll travel to Arizona to see how the DOT tackled the high-stakes US 60/Bell Road interchange project, facing down intense traffic and community pressure. Then, we'll head to Oregon to examine the Ochoco Creek Bridge replacement, a project that had to minimize disruption on a critical transportation route. These aren't just stories, they're proof. You'll see the direct, measurable results of getting this planning right. How it saved millions of dollars, shaved months off schedules, and built unshakable trust with stakeholders. Let's dive in. Let's examine our first case study: the Arizona DOT's US 60/Bell Road interchange. This wasn't a simple repair. The objectives were massive: relieve crippling congestion and improve safety. This wasn't a simple repair job. The objectives were massive: to relieve crippling congestion and improve safety in a fast-growing area of Surprise, Arizona. But the challenges were even bigger. They were dealing with extremely high traffic volumes. This was a major artery, a spiderweb of complex utility relocations lurking underground. And perhaps the toughest challenge: managing the impact on frustrated local businesses and a weary community. Confronted with these risks, the team didn't just react. They used structured risk planning to make a proactive and incredibly bold decision. Their risk analysis revealed that partial closures would drag the project out for years, prolonging the very pain they were trying to solve. So they made the call: a full road closure. This was a drastic measure, but it wasn't a gamble. It was a calculated strategy born directly from their risk workshop. And on the next slide, you'll see just how brilliantly that strategy paid off. So, did that bold gamble on a full closure pay off? The results weren't just good. They were transformational. Their proactive planning allowed them to identify and mitigate over 50 potential risks before they could cause any damage. But look at what that thoroughness achieved. The project was originally budgeted at $60.7 million and scheduled to tie up traffic for 16 long months. But by having the courage to follow their risk plan, the final results were staggering. They delivered the project for just $49.8 million, a massive $11 million under budget. And they finished in an incredible just 6 months, a full 10 months ahead of schedule. Think about that. They didn't just save money and time. They gave a community its main artery back 10 months early. And that's the real victory. Beyond the numbers, this decisive action dramatically reduced the overall disruption for local businesses and daily commuters. The very problem they were trying to solve, congestion and frustration, was minimized because they had a plan and stuck to it. This is the power of risk management made tangible. Now, let's contrast that large-scale project with a smaller, yet equally brilliant example: the Oregon DOT Sochoco Creek Bridge replacement. The mission was clear but tough: replace a critical aging bridge on US 26, but to do it with absolute minimal disruption to a community that relied on it daily, all while staying tightly on budget. The challenges were familiar but no less daunting. Total reliance on the bridge by local traffic. The unpredictable window of weather constraints. Confronted with these risks, the team used their structured risk planning to make a pivotal decision. Instead of traditional methods that would have closed this vital route for months, they opted for accelerated bridge construction, ABC. This wasn't just a technical choice. It was a strategic one, born from their proactive workshops. They chose to spend a bit more on innovative methods upfront to save a fortune in community disruption down the line. So, did that strategic bet on ABC pay off? Absolutely. The numbers on the chart tell a powerful story of efficiency. They slashed $600,000 from the budget, finishing at $1.9 million instead of the planned $2.6 million. They gave the community its bridge back a full month early, completing in just 5 months. But the real win, as the slide notes, can't be captured on a spreadsheet. By finishing faster, they dramatically reduced the disruption for local businesses and residents. They achieved their primary objective: replacing critical infrastructure without crippling the community it serves. This proves that smart risk management is just as powerful on smaller, focused projects as it is on massive undertakings. Now, let's distill these 2 success stories into actionable lessons for any project. First, and most importantly, early planning pays. In both Arizona and Oregon, investing time in planning before shovels hit the ground yielded massive returns in cost and time savings. Second, collaboration builds trust. These weren't top-down mandates. The collaborative workshops created shared ownership of the risks and the solutions, turning stakeholders into partners. Third, consistency creates competence. A highway interchange and a single bridge couldn't be more different. Yet, the same consistent risk management framework delivered success for both. This isn't magic. It's a repeatable process. Finally, and most powerfully, proactive planning creates opportunity. Risk management isn't about fear. It's about foresight. These projects show us that when you confront uncertainty head-on, you don't just avoid disaster. You unlock opportunities for smarter, faster, and more efficient delivery. That is the ultimate takeaway. Now, let's bridge the gap between these case studies and your own world. I want you to take a moment for a quick reflection. Pause and think about a construction project you've been involved with, maybe one you've worked on, studied, or even just observed. Now, imagine if that project had used the kind of early, structured risk planning we've seen today. How might things have been different? Could it have prevented a specific cost overrun? Could it have avoided a certain delay? And how would that proactive approach have boosted the confidence of the client, the community, or your team? Hold that thought. It's this shift from reactive to proactive that defines modern project management. Now, let's test your understanding of that core concept with a quick quiz. Here's the question: which of the following best describes the purpose of the plan risk management process? Is it to identify all possible risks to the project? B, decide how risk management activities will be structured and performed? C, assign each risk to the party best able to manage it? Or D, track the effectiveness of implemented risk responses? While A, C, and D are all parts of the overall risk management process. They are actually carried out in the later steps. The sole purpose of plan risk management is to define the how, the strategy, the methodology, the rules of the game that we will use to do all of those things. It's about creating the playbook before we ever step onto the field. Let's recap the 3 most important takeaways from today's session. First, and most fundamentally, plan risk management lays the foundation for everything that follows. It's the essential first step that defines the how, the strategy, the rules, and the playbook for all future risk activities. Second, construction demands proactive and tailored strategies. A one-size-fits-all approach is a recipe for failure. The scale and complexity of your project must dictate the rigor of your risk plan. And finally, integration is everything. For risk management to be truly effective, it must be woven into the fabric of every other project process, from scheduling to budgeting to communication. It must be a continuous discipline, not a one-time box-ticking exercise. To conclude, remember this: plan risk management is the cornerstone of project success. It's how we turn uncertainty from a threat into a managed advantage. If you'd like to dive deeper into these concepts, here are some of the key references that informed this lecture. The PMBOK guide from the Project Management Institute, ISO 31000 for Risk Management Guidelines, case studies from the Federal Highway Administration's SHRP2 program. Thank you for your time and engagement today. I hope this session empowers you to build a more proactive, controlled, and successful approach to risk on all your future projects.